to get started, I've got 1 cup of warm water, and it's right out of my faucet, as hot as my faucet will go, but it reads about 110 degrees. And then I'm adding a 1/2 cup of honey, raw honey, into the water. And then I'm going to mix that all around to get it well mixed in there. And the honey, not only it's really good for you, it's very healthy. It is a natural sweetener. Not only does it make the bread taste really, really good, but it makes the yeast react really well, because the yeast eats the sugar. It just makes a nice, fluffy, yummy little yeasty mixture here. So I'm just mixing it all around there, scraping it down the sides. And I've added it right to my bowl because we're going to be adding flour soon. There we go. All right, so we're going to let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. We'll just keep an eye on it. And when it gets all foamy on top, we'll know it is good to go and ready for the next step. Now, while we're waiting on the water and the yeast and the honey to do its thing, we're going to measure out, I'm going to use 1.5 cup of milk today. You can, if I had buttermilk, I would use 1 cup water and 1/2 cup of buttermilk, because it just gives it that extra flavor. I love buttermilk in bread, and that's what I would use, but I don't have buttermilk today. So you have that option. Make sure you make that note. It can you can use a whole 1.5 cups of milk. You can do 1 cup water, 1/2 cup milk, 1 cup water, 1/2 cup kefir or buttermilk. You can mix it up however you like. And then to the milk, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of salt and 3 tablespoons of melted butter. But I am not going to melt my butter first but we're going to have to heat up our milk. So I'm just going to throw my butter in like that, and then we're going to put it in the microwave just long enough to warm it, to have nice warm milk. No hotter than what the water was, because if you have it too hot of water, too hot of milk, you'll kill the yeast, and you don't want that to happen. But you do need warm water and warm milk to help everything work together to create that beautiful, beautiful bread. So now that the yeast is all foamy on top, we're going to add 2 cups of flour after I add the paddle attachment. I've used the dough hook before, and by using the paddle, it just mixes up much quicker that way. Over some for y'all. Put you in there so that you can really see what's going on. There you go. So it's nice and mixed up. So I'm going to add 1 more. And let that get mixed around really well. And then we're going to add our milk, butter, and salt mixture. But first, we need to warm our milk. Okay, that's getting thick, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And let's get our milk warmed up. All right, now it took 1.5 minutes at 30-second intervals for the butter to mostly melt, which is fine. You don't have to bring it all the way to where the butter is completely melted, or you can start with melted butter because you just want your milk warm. See, I can easily hold the side of the measuring cup without it burning me, and that's what you want. You want nice warm milk. All right, so we're going to start this back up on low, and I'm going to start adding my milk mixture. Let's stop it and kind of get it off the paddle there so it can mix in a little bit better. Flour as soon as this is well blended. Now you can add the milk mixture at 2 or 3 cups, and I don't always do it one way. So today I just did it after 3 cups. It would probably blend quicker and easier if you did it at 2 cups. So it's really up to you. You can try it, just see whichever one you prefer. Now it's still a little chunky in there, but I'm okay with that. That's really okay. So we're going to start adding some more flour. And we've already added 3 cups of flour, so here's cup 4. Let's stop right there. I am so glad I didn't get any further, because before you start adding the extra flour, you need to change over to the dough hook. Sorry guys. I'm cooking lasagna, making a video, bread, and trying to bring my plants in that I've had out, trying to harden them off, get them ready for spring planting. So I'm usually pretty good at multitasking, and everything's going to be fine. We just need to switch over to our dough hook. So once you get your milk all added in there and you start adding more flour, go ahead and put on your dough hook. There we go. And I put my mixer on number 2 because when it starts kneading, it really works. It takes a long time to knead, and it works really hard, and it gets warm. So I just don't feel the need to make it run any faster than that. It works out great, and I feel like I'm kind of conserving my mixer, because they are a whole lot more expensive now than they were when I bought this one. Okay, so we have 4 cups that we put in there. We're going to add our 5th. So with this recipe, you add typically between 5 to 7 cups of flour. Now we've added 5, and we're going to stop, and we're going to let it rest. I'm going to cover it and let it rest for about 10 minutes. We're going to start it up again and see how it does. And that will help us to not add too much flour to it, because if you add too much flour, it gets very heavy and stiff, and you don't have that beautiful white, fluffy white bread that we all love. But I am going to let this continue to knead and mix all in together, because we want everything well blended. Try to get those sides scraped down to get everything in together there. Now, one thing that will help determine how much flour is added to your bread is your climate. Like here, we live in a very warm, humid climate, so there's a lot of moisture in the air, so it takes a little more flour. If you live in a more arid or drier area, you shouldn't need as much flour to get to that consistency that we want to come to. And what we're looking for, it'll still be a little sticky. I'll show you as we get there. But you don't want it so sticky it just really gums up on your fingers. You want it where it slightly just has a slight tackiness to it, but you can still work the dough. So that's what we're going to be looking for. All right, now you see how it's really looking, it looks pretty smooth. You know, it looks nice and smooth. It looks nice and smooth and at a really good consistency, like things like the flour and the water and everything has blended in together really well. So we're going to let this sit. I'm going to take one of my stained up tea towels because they're old, but they're also very clean. And I'm going to wrap it around there and we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And that gives, what happens is, it gives the flour time to really absorb the water. You can blend it, but when it sits there like that, it's just like when you make cornbread. You make your batter, and then, or even pancakes, you make your batter and you can let it sit off to the side for about 20 minutes before you use it. And I'm telling you, it's a huge difference because it gives it time for that flour or the meal to absorb the water, and it makes it so fluffy and it's just delicious. All right, 10 minutes has passed, so let's give it another go. We'll set it back on 2, the setting. You can see how it's pulling it up and becoming more into a ball. That just shows that there's less water, that the flour has absorbed a lot of the water. So we're going to give it just a minute here, let it knead around, make sure everything gets well and mixed. So let's touch it. See? Very sticky still. Oh my goodness. So let's get it going again. Usually takes about 6.5 cups for me. But this is number 6. If you're in a drier climate, I wouldn't add a whole nother cup like I did. I would add like a quarter or a half if you're closer. If yours wasn't as thin and as sticky as mine was, add less flour in this step here. Because next, I'm going to add like just a little bit at a time to see how it does. Because while it takes patience and you just kind of have to watch your dough to see what it's doing, it makes a huge difference in the end product. When you get that piece of bread and it's light and fluffy, it's just delicious. You will be so happy that you took this little extra bit of care. Now you see how mine is really pulling off the sides of the bowl here. I mean, when it gets to that point, you typically do not need more flour. And I wish now I hadn't added the whole cup. Let's give it a test. Okay, it's still pretty sticky. I'm gonna let it run another minute. we're going to cover it again and let the water absorb into the flour. Oh, it just looks so nice. Absolutely beautiful. See, I made bread a couple days ago and it took 6.5 cups. Today, it's 6 cups. Don't get in a hurry. I took it for granted, and I think I'm going to come out fine. But just take your time. Alright, so we're going to turn that off. And I'm going to let it cover it again, and we're going to let it sit for another 10 minutes. Alright, once again, 10 minutes is done. Let's take a look. For a while. Could be 5 minutes, could be 8 minutes, could be 10 minutes. So what we're looking for, see how I pulled off that piece of dough? So you want to just stretch it out. And when you can stretch it to where you can see through it and it doesn't tear like that, you know that it is perfect. That is called the window pane test. So we're going to let it knead for a little bit. I don't know, I'll knead it for probably 3 or 4 minutes. We'll stop it, we'll do another test, and we'll keep moving like that until we can see through the dough. Alright. It's probably been about 3 minutes. Oh yeah, I didn't add too much water, too much flour. So let's give it a little, oh, we're still ripping. All right, gotta let it go. All right, let's give it another look-see. See, if your dough isn't a little bit sticky, you have definitely added too much flour. All right, we're gonna get it kind of pressed out there. Just kind of tear it. Oh, look at that. That was really, I'm just going to give that a couple more minutes and then we're ready. All right. I do believe we are ready to go. It was so close. The last test, I'm not going to even try it now. I only did it for another 2 minutes. I know I don't make y'all sit there and look at it the whole time. It was literally like 2 minutes. All right, so now I have a buttered bowl. So we are going to take this dough. Let me move it. Can you see it okay? All right. Gonna get it out of this mixing bowl. And then I'm gonna take it and I'm just going to push the edges under. You see how I'm just kind of, not hard, but very gently, just pushing the edges over. Now, if your fingers are sticking too much, you can flour your hands, not your bread or your dough, but flour your hands, or you can oil your hands, would be even better. Put a little oil on them just to help keep them from sticking too much. And then we're going to, see, I just kind of tuck it under to make a nice tight ball, okay? That's all there is to it, just like that. We're gonna sit it down in there, right there. And then I am going to add a little flour on the top. And what this does, this actually helps to seal your dough and keeps all that wonderful moisture on the inside that makes the bread so yummy. All right. Well-used dish towel over the top. I'm going to put it in a oven set to proofing. I have a bread proofing setting on my oven. So I'm going to put it in there for 1 hour and we're going to check back. Now you see how when you look at it, it's just flat. When it gets to where we want it, we'll have this little dome, this little rise. I'm going to put the bread in here on the top rack. And we're going to add a large pan of hot water. And it's just how hot I can get it in the sink and underneath our dough. All right, so the family came home. They wanted dinner. It's getting dark. It's almost 6:30. So I had to take my dough out of the oven, and my lasagna's ready, waiting for the oven to heat up, and then I'll have it in there. But so what I did, I just took my pan of hot water, put a cookie cooling rack on top of it, and I placed my dough on top of that. Now I probably will add some more hot water to this pan because being out here, the temperature here in the house is cooler than the oven, and just kind of help get it going and get a little more steam going. All right, so I decided to go ahead and replace the water with fresh, hot, steamy water. Instead of adding to it, because I figured this way it'll be a lot hotter, it'll last longer. And we're going to just replace our cooling rack on top and our dough, and there we go. All right, now even doing it this method and not in the oven proofing has worked out beautifully. It has been exactly an hour. An hour works perfect in the oven when I have it proofing in there. And it has worked out beautifully here well with this method here. So for those of you who don't have an oven with a proofing thing on it, it's the first time in my life ever that I've had it. And so this method worked out really, really well. So what we're going to do next, you can see the dough. It's nice and poofy. So we're going to take it out of here. My dear sweet husband came home and washed dishes for me. We don't have a dishwasher. So anybody that will wash a dish, I appreciate. All right, so now we're going to have to dump this out on the counter. I have buttered my pans with some melted butter. And we're going to take this out here. And I'm just going to smush it down. Just like this. And bring it over. And I'm going to cut it in half. All right, so now we're going to shape it for our pans. So it's nothing fancy, guys. Seriously, nothing fancy at all. I just like to do it in kind of a triangle shape there. And whenever you see like punch your dough down, well, that's what we're doing right here. We're just punching our dough down. And I'm going to bring it over and back like that. Bring it around. Nope. Keep it like that. I always get backwards. And then I'm just going to start rolling it. And you want to be sure and pinch everything together really well. Like that. You can make a rectangle and start rolling up. You have the long, you'll start on the short side and roll up that way. I'm going to take the ends and you want to bring them up to the back side there, because this is going to be the bottom. So we want to take our ends and you just seal everything up together really well. Look at that. Beautiful little loaf. Once again, I'm going to coat my loaf in some flour. Just like that. And we're going to take a pan. Here's the seam side. See, you can hardly even see it. Make sure the seam side is down. And into the pan it goes. All right, look at that. The beautiful loaves. We're going to throw the dish towel on top. And I am going to put it, because my lasagna is still in the oven, so we are going to put this back on this pan of hot water. But I am going to replace the water again, so it'll be good and hot. All right, so the bread has rested here for an hour, and it's ready to go. You can see here, see it's about 1 inch over the top edge of the pan there. So into the oven it goes, and we're going to leave it for 30 minutes, and then I've got the oven set to 375. We're going to bake it for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to cover it with aluminum foil so it doesn't get too brown, and I'll let it cook for probably another 15-20 minutes, and then we'll check the internal temperature and see if it's done. All right, 30 minutes has passed, and look at how gorgeous. See, I always have a poochie on one side. It's got to be the way I put my bread in there. A little in the thing. But anyway, it's still gorgeous. It's really nice and brown just like that. I don't really like it darker than that. And it's not quite done. So we need to, you know what? Let's check it to make sure. We're looking for 190 degrees. So let's poke it in there and see what happens. Because we want it good and done. We don't want it, because it'll be kind of doughy in the middle if you don't get it good and done. See, we're not quite, we're about at 135. So we're going to cover it. Be careful when you do this, because it is very hot in there. You just want to cover it. We're going to put it back in there. It'll come on up quick. So we're going to cook it for another 15 minutes, and we'll come back and check it. All right, so another 15 minutes has passed. So let's go back here. Look at my stove oven, it's a mess. And see where we are. There we go. I'm gonna poke a different hole. Now I can't see it. Now it is creeping right on up to like 185, which is really perfect, because when you take things out of the oven, they will continue to cook. So we're going to take it out. We're going to turn the oven off. I'm going to put it up here, and we're just going to leave it in the pan for probably about 30 minutes, and then I'm going to turn it out on a cooling rack. Let it cool overnight, and then in the morning we will cut it, and I may make the kids some French toast.